Hello and welcome to another Cliff Reviews Art House. This time I'm reviewing the film Rose, directed by Niels, Arden, Oplev. Now, I wasn't really sure who this director was, and I haven't seen many of his films, but he did direct The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which I did see, but I really didn't know much about him. This is a Danish film about a woman with schizophrenia, Inga, who's taken on a bus tour group trip to Paris with her sister and her sister's husband. Right from the opening scene, I found this really compelling. I think this is really well made, really well written. The interactions between the main characters were just interesting from the start. We also see the mother, and so the film actually communicates a lot to us about the family dynamics just from a few minutes of them all speaking to each other. This is a really sensitive film in its portrayal of mental illness and how it affects the person who has it and how it affects the people around the person. Sophie Grabol, who plays Inga, is outstanding. What a performance. Even though she can be really difficult at times, she's a really sympathetic character. I really liked Inga, as I say, even when she's being really difficult and even inappropriate. I really loved this film, I must say. I could have stayed in Inga's world a lot longer. Interestingly, it's had mixed reviews. Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian described it as having treacly liberal good taste and said that it was a sentimental drama that just rings false. And it is true that many scenes are kind of predictable. We get the following played out multiple times. Inga's being difficult, some of the other people are upset, some of the people are compassionate, Inga comes through and everyone feels good. And it's also definitely true that this film has taken the route of definitely allowing emotion, sympathy, humour, compassion. It's good storytelling to take us on this emotional journey. It definitely could have been more earnest and more serious, but it's not that film. It is trying to get the balance right between being entertaining but also in communicating something quite moving. And for me, it did a really good job of this. It's really entertaining and it's really heartwarming. But for me, it didn't ever get too schmaltzy, even if it was a little bit sentimental and a little bit kind of conveniently wrapped up. The resolutions of the issues that arise around Inga often isn't neat and tidy. It's often messy. Yes, there are some beautiful moments where Inga perhaps helps the others to see the world in a different way, but it doesn't shy away from her difficulties, her kind of messiness, and the difficulties for Inga's sister and the family dysfunction. In some ways, it reminded me of the French film The Untouchables, which is a film about a relationship between a quadriplegic man and his caregiver. I think that The Untouchables was more of a feel-good comedy drama than Rose, but it had similar principles in terms of using humour, compassion, humanity. I think Rose, as a film, does have more of an art house quality to it. It's a really compassionate film. It's a beautiful film, I thought. Seeing people with severe mental health conditions as human beings. I particularly enjoyed the relationship with the 12-year-old boy, Christian, whose father was very kind of angry and grumpy and arguing with Christian's mother. Christian and Inga definitely don't have the same problems in life, but he sees her with the simplicity of a child, and somehow they just bond in a really beautiful way. I think this is an important film on kind of getting us to remember that every single human being is a human, and it's a shame that it hasn't had a bigger audience. It seems to have been released in 2022, this film, but it's only been screened in UK cinemas in 2024. It's the kind of film that reminds you of the humanity of every person, even in situations that are messy and difficult. It's about transcending severe health conditions through acceptance and human connection. And for me, this is a really strong message. One thing I wasn't sure about was we keep getting references to the death of Princess Diana. And it's set a few weeks after Diana's death, and obviously they're visiting Paris, so it's where the death has taken place. I do find this perhaps a little bit clunky compared to the rest of the film, which for me, the film was really nuanced in its message. And I just found that this was a little bit, I don't know, perhaps it's too much on the nose. I mean, Inga's mental health issues were triggered by an affair she had in Paris with a married man who was dishonest and duplicitous towards her. So being back in Paris has a resonance for her. She's kind of, I guess, seeking healing, seeking to move on from these decades of kind of trauma that she's suffered. Inga describes how she didn't know who she was after the trauma of that relationship breaking up. So I do wonder if the parallel with Diana is the idea of women losing their identity in order to get their dream man, but the dream man not being quite what they thought. This probably is the idea of making this parallel between Inga and Diana, but it just felt a little bit heavy-handed to me. I don't think the film needed this, actually. It just seemed a little bit surplus. What I did love is this beautiful, compassionate portrayal of Inga. I really liked her, and I really enjoyed the moments when she's able to outwit someone or where she saves the day. It certainly all rang true for me. The film is nuanced in its portrayal and understanding of Inga's relationship with all of the people around her, and how being around a person with mental health problems requires patience and understanding, not taking everything at face value. I really loved how we learn that something Inga says, which sounds dangerous and threatening, actually doesn't have to be taken at face value. It's diffused with humour in the first case, and eventually we realise that she has a very strange way of expressing her affection. I thought this was really clever, really smart writing. Overall, while there's no doubt that this film uses a good portion of sentimentality, I think it works. It produces a compassionate, beautiful, and thoroughly enjoyable film. I highly recommend it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.